So, how much did it cost, and when does the campaign end?
Great.
Hopefully never.
Yep.
That's the second
Yeah,
answer.
no, I know. I know.
Obviously. And hopefully nothing. No, I'm just kidding. We want to continue this program. This is not, like I said, this is not about the short-term ROI. We have other things that we can do to drive short-term ROI on the business, and we do that. So this fits into the broad context of our overall marketing plans, and this is just one part of it. But it's inspiring other parts of it, which is actually one of the most exciting things. Is we see some of this power, and we're saying, okay, with all of these other things we're doing to try to talk to consumers, talk about our benefit to consumers, how can we try to tap into either the insights we're learning or the personal connections we're getting and these emotional evangelists for our brand in the future? So we're working through how we expand it more broadly over the coming years through other elements of our marketing mix.
The other thing we said when we sat down and we worked on this, we said, don't do this unless you're ready to think about it like a living, breathing organism. Don't do it like an initiative. Don't do it like a flight, because it will absolutely not be worth it for you, and it will fail with people. So look at this as a longer-term opportunity, and let's control the investment over time so that, number one, we get the benefit of it being authentic and real for people, but number two, that we can determine over time how large we can take it, and obviously the content, the message, you have that content with the people, so you can repurpose that.
Is that considered a risky move? Was that taking a risk within P&G?
It's definitely taking a risk, because when you have, we have serious business pressures in this broadly, and then of course in this category, and you know, the long term is often made up of a lot of short term periods, and so when it comes to taking a risk on something that you have to be committed to, and you know, the program will evolve. Obviously, we'll continue to improve it, make sure it's serving the purpose that it was originally set out to be. But when you think about making an investment choice in 1 year, and you don't know what your business is going to look like necessarily, or what things are going to fly at you, it's definitely a risk from that standpoint. So you have to just be willing to think above that and make sure, I mean, you can't spend all of your money in this type of activity. You still have to secure the short term. And so, you know, it's making sure that you carve out the balance in that. So it's a risk from a commitment standpoint, but not when it's so purpose-inspired and it's ingrained in what we're trying to do now. It's not a risk to me. And I plan on, after, you know, coming back, after I have another one of these, I'll be coming back to the business, and so it's not a risk because I'm going to make sure it continues to live.
That's great.
And I think the other part there's a risk when you look at this program, particularly for P&G, is the idea of activating people, the idea of getting them to talk, the idea of putting them in motion. Everybody gets it intellectually. They see where that is going and why that's valuable. But legally, regulatory-wise, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? That's scary. So being able to create a system that allowed folks to talk, but to do so within the constraints that had to be real took a lot of time and planning.
Creating an emotional connection on the web, you think about it in broadcast, and the opportunity in that ad unit is to create an emotional connection, and then digitally we try to find out how do you create that emotional connection, and what's happening is that we're using the utility of the web to create emotional connection. What are you thinking about with regard to the ad unit to drive emotional connection, or have you gone to the point of believing that emotional connection is developed through the utility of the web, and the ad unit will never be disruptive like it is on television, where it's going to sit in front? And what's your thoughts on that?
Go ahead.
If I'll say something that's probably not popular at home. We had amazingly qualified TV for 5 years on this brand before private label launched. We had high share of requirements. Everyone was satisfied, and we still saw departure from our business. So it doesn't happen. You don't automatically create emotional connections through TV advertising. It doesn't happen. It can happen, sorry. It's not automatically happening in TV advertising. So I don't think of it any differently. I don't think of an iMedia ad or any type of placement like that any differently than I think about with TV. There are you have to have an idea that's so extremely moving and be willing to spend money against that. that you can drive that. So I'll give you an example of one that I think does well, but it's not the only thing in their marketing mix. Pampers has their UNICEF Good Night Sleep campaign. And so every package of Pampers that you buy, $1 or something like that, goes to UNICEF. And it's cause related, but and clearly having babies and making sure they're healthy and everything, it drives emotional connection in and of itself. I always say we should put dogs or babies in our advertising and it'll automatically work, right? But I think they did a really nice job at trying to drive emotional connection to Pampers, saying we are trying to help out with the health of infants around the world. Separately, they have advertising talking about the benefit of their new Dry Max, higher absorbency, thinner, diaper. But I think that's an example where they try to take some more emotional connection into the broadcast world. They're doing similar things online, I believe, but I don't think there's any difference, in my opinion, on driving emotional connection through what medium. Depends on what idea you have and what you're really trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
what your objective is.
So is it fair to say that, whenever there's a lot of people, and Steve talked about it earlier, what advertising do you remember that happened on the web? What ad is memorable? And marketers will say, brands will say, I don't remember anything memorable on the web, so therefore, ads on the web are not going to be as intensified. And the utility of web is excellent, and it does provide great value. So do we need to try to make ads or work hard to make ads as emotional on the web as they are on television? Maybe the answer is no, and we should stop trying to make that happen.
I would never say stop trying to drive emotional connection anywhere. But I would also say that I think and this might go back to your utility point, if I'm getting it right. Creative itself can help drive emotional connection and the idea behind the creative, but I think that the power, and maybe this is just a different way we do buying at P&G, we have a little bit less control over where our TV ads go based on the way we buy. The power, and we do this some in our iMedia placements as well, but the power on placement and context that can be so precise and so relevant. We were talking about it with the Yelp example earlier. That's where digital, the web, can actually drive an emotional connection or more engagement, I guess is what I'm thinking, because the creative still has to do the work, I think, on the emotional part. But driving the engagement is the precise targeting that you could do on the web. And I don't think we are even close to that yet. We are not set up yet to have the scale we need and drive that precision that the web can provide. We're not close to that yet. I'm excited about, like I said before, pockets of brilliance on things that we've been testing, but we haven't cracked the code because we still are a reach-based company. We want to reach the masses, and we get efficiencies by reaching masses. So I think that we're still figuring out our balance there, in my opinion.
I'm aligned.
That's great. Thank you guys very much.
Thank
Great
you.
presentation, great success.